I never thought the happiest night of our lives would become the night everything fell apart. But I guess that's how betrayal works, isn't it? It doesn't announce itself. It just shows up wearing a smile you thought you knew. My name is Emma, and for 12 years, I believed I was living a fairy tale, not the kind with castles and glass slippers, but the real kind, the kind where you work hard together, build something meaningful, and watch your partner grow into the person they always dreamed of becoming. I thought I was watching that happen with Daniel. My husband, my best friend, or at least, that's who I thought he was. It was a Friday evening in late April, and the hotel ballroom was buzzing with energy. Crystal chandeliers caught the light from every angle, and waiters glided between clusters of people in expensive suits, carrying champagne on silver trays. I stood near the entrance, smoothing down my emerald dress, the one Daniel said made my eyes look like they held secrets. I remember smiling at that memory, feeling proud, feeling grateful. This was his night. After 8 years of grinding at Grandstone Industries, he was finally being promoted to Senior Vice President of Operations, and I was so proud of him. I spotted him across the room, laughing with some colleagues, his hand gesturing animatedly the way it always did when he was excited. God, he looked handsome. His dark hair was just slightly tousled, his navy suit perfectly tailored. I caught his eye, and he winked at me. My heart did that stupid flutter it always did, even after all these years. I thought to myself, this is it. This is what we worked for. This is our reward for all those late nights, all those sacrifices. I made my way over to him, weaving through the crowd. He wrapped his arm around my waist and pulled me close, pressing a kiss to my temple. "There's my beautiful wife," he said, his voice warm and affectionate. His colleagues smiled at us, that knowing smile people give couples who seem happy. And we were happy, at least. I thought we both were. The evening flowed like champagne, smooth, sparkling, intoxicating. There were speeches, toasts, laughter that echoed off the high ceilings. I stood beside Daniel, my hand in his, feeling like we were finally getting everything we deserved. Then came the moment that should have been perfect. The CEO, Richard Morrison, a silver-haired man with a commanding presence and kind eyes, took the microphone. He spoke about Daniel's dedication, his innovative strategies, his leadership. And then he said something that made my chest swell with pride. "Daniel Hartwell has been an invaluable asset to this company, but I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that his success didn't happen in a vacuum." Richard's eyes found me in the crowd. "Emma Hartwell, would you stand up for a moment?" My cheeks flushed as heads turned toward me. Daniel's hand tightened on mine, and I stood, feeling suddenly self-conscious. Richard continued, his voice carrying clearly through the room. "Many of you may not know this, but Emma here is the brilliant mind behind the Stream Sync protocol that revolutionized our supply chain operations 3 years ago. She brought that concept to Daniel, worked on it with him for months, and frankly, it's been one of our most profitable innovations to date." The room erupted in polite applause. I smiled, nodding in acknowledgement, but something felt off. I glanced at Daniel, expecting to see pride on his face, maybe the sheepish grin he got when he was caught being too humble. Instead, his jaw was tight, his smile forced. It was just a flash, barely a second, but I saw it. And it sent a tiny crack through my perfect evening. I sat back down, and Daniel leaned over to whisper in my ear, "You didn't need to put that idea in Richard's head. Tonight is supposed to be about my promotion." His tone was light, almost joking, but there was an edge to it that made me pull back slightly. Before I could respond, he was already turning back to the table, raising his glass for another toast. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was being sensitive. Maybe he was just nervous, caught off guard. But that tiny crack kept widening, just a little, throughout the rest of the dinner. Then came the speeches from the honorees, Daniel stood up, microphone in hand, looking confident and polished. He thanked the company, thanked Richard, mentioned his team. And then he turned to me, and of course, I have to thank my wife. Emma. The room smiled. I smiled. She's been my rock, my support system. Honestly, where would I be without someone to keep the home fires burning while I climbed this ladder? There was laughter, warm, gentle laughter. But his next words hit me like ice water. I mean it, honey. You owe me everything this life, this beautiful evening, everything. We have, none of it would exist without my hard work. The room went quiet for just a heartbeat. A few people shifted uncomfortably. I felt my smile freeze on my face, felt the heat rising up my neck. Did he really just say that? In front of everyone, that's when Richard Morrison stood up, his expression pleasant but firm. Actually, Daniel, I think you might have misspoken there. His voice was calm, but it carried weight. From what I understand, Emma's career as a systems analyst and her consulting work have contributed significantly to your household income over the years. In fact, if memory serves, she was the one who introduced you to the concepts that became your first major project here. Daniel's face went red. He laughed, that nervous laugh he did when he was caught off guard. Right, yes, of course, I meant we knew each other. It's a partnership. He sat down quickly, and the moment passed as someone else began speaking. But I couldn't hear anything anymore. My ears were ringing. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I excused myself, mumbling something about needing the restroom. I made it to the ladies' lounge on shaking legs, gripping the marble counter to steady myself. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, my perfectly styled hair, my makeup, my expensive dress, and I felt like I was looking at a stranger. What just happened? Did my husband really just take credit for our entire life? Did he really just say I owed him everything? I pulled out my phone, needing to ground myself, needing something familiar. That's when I saw it. A notification from our bank app, a transfer alert. I frowned, opening it with trembling fingers. A wire transfer. $45,000 had been moved from our joint savings account, the account we'd built together over years of careful planning and saving, into an account I didn't recognize. The transfer was dated 2 days ago. My blood went cold. $45,000 gone without a word to me. I scrolled frantically through recent transactions, and that's when I saw them. Smaller transfers over the past 6 months. $5,000 here, $8,000 there, all to the same unknown account. I did the math in my head, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Over $70,000. $70,000 moved without my knowledge. I felt like the floor was tilting beneath me. The walls of the elegant bathroom seemed to close in. I couldn't breathe. I had to grip the edge of the sink to keep from collapsing. Who was he sending money to? Why? What was happening? I splashed cold water on my face, ruining my makeup, not caring. I needed answers. I needed them now, but I also knew I couldn't make a scene here, not at his promotion party, not in front of all these people. So I did what I'd always done. I composed myself. I fixed my lipstick. And I walked back out into that glittering ballroom with a smile on my face. But inside, I was screaming. The rest of the evening was a blur. Daniel kept glancing at me, his expression shifting. Between confusion and irritation, he tried to hold my hand, but I pulled away, pretending I needed to fix my hair. When people congratulated us, I smiled and nodded and said all the right things. But I felt like I was watching myself from outside my body. Who was this woman? Who was this man standing beside her, accepting praise for a life they'd supposedly built together, while hiding something so enormous it could destroy them? We drove home in silence. Daniel tried to make conversation, tried to laugh off the awkwardness from earlier. Richard really put me on the spot there. Hi. I didn't mean it the way it sounded, babe. You know that. I just nodded, staring out the window at the passing streetlights. Emma, come on, don't be like this. It's been such a great night. When we got home, I went straight to our bedroom. Daniel followed, loosening his tie, still trying to play it off. Are you really going to be mad about a stupid comment I made? I was nervous. Ahmed, you know how I get when I'm speaking in front of people. I turned to face him, and I could feel every ounce of betrayal, confusion, and hurt bubbling up inside me. Where did the $45,000 go? His face went pale, actually pale, like all the blood drained out of it in an instant. What are you talking about? Don't. My voice was shaking. Don't you dare lie to me right now. I saw the transfer 2 days ago. $45,000 from our joint savings, and that's not all. There are other transfers, months of them. Over $70,000 total, Daniel. Where is our money going? He stared at me for a long moment, and I watched a dozen different expressions flash across his face: surprise, anger, calculation. Then he sighed, running his hand through his hair. Okay, look. I was going to tell you. Tell me what? I could barely get the words out. It's an investment, a business opportunity. My college friend Marcus, you remember him? He's starting a tech company, and he needed capital. It's going to triple our money, Emma, maybe more. I just ... I knew you'd worrying, and I wanted to surprise you when it paid off. I stared at him. Every instinct I had was screaming that this was a lie. $70,000. You moved $70,000 of our savings without telling me. For a business investment. It's my money too, he said, and there was an edge in his voice now. I earned it, most of it anyway, and there it was, the truth he'd been hiding all along. I felt something inside me crack completely, most of it. Daniel, I've worked full-time for our entire marriage. I paid for your MBA. I covered our mortgage for 2 years when you were between jobs. How dare you? And I've more than paid you back, he snapped. Look at this house. Look at your car. Look at the life you have. You think you'd have any of this without me? Without my career, I felt like I'd been slapped. Is that really what you think? That I'm just ... What? Some kind of dependent, some accessory to your success? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The look on his face told me everything I needed to. No, this was how he saw me, how he'd maybe always seen me. And I'd been too in love, too trusting, too supportive to notice. I couldn't stay in that room with him. I grabbed my pillow and a blanket and walked out, ignoring his protests. I spent that night on the couch, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through 12 years of memories and wondering how many of them were real. How many times had he taken credit for my ideas? How many times had he minimized my contributions? How many times had I let it slide because I loved him, because I trusted him, because I thought we were a team? The next morning, I called my sister, Lauren. She'd never particularly liked Daniel, always said there was something too smooth about him, too calculated. I defended him 1,000 times. Now, sitting in my car in a parking lot because I couldn't bear to be in the house, I told her everything. The comment at the party, the money, the fight. Emma, she said, her voice tight with controlled anger, you need to protect yourself, right now. Today, go talk to a lawyer. Get your financial records in order. Figure out what's really going on with that money. I did. That Monday, I took a sick day from work and met with an attorney. A sharp woman named Patricia who'd handled my friend's divorce 2 years ago. I told her everything, showed her the bank statements, the transfers. She listened carefully, took notes, and then looked at me with something like pity in her eyes. Emma, I need you to get me everything, every financial document, every email related to money, every text message. If your husband is hiding assets or planning something, we need to be ahead of it. That's when the real investigation began. I became someone. I never thought I'd be someone who checked her husband's phone when he was in the shower, who searched through his laptop history, who called the bank pretending to verify account information. And what I found God, what I found broke me. The money wasn't going to Marcus for a business investment. That was a lie. The account it was going to it belonged to Daniel himself, a secret account I knew nothing about. And it wasn't just our savings he'd been moving. He'd taken out a second mortgage on our house, the house that was in both our names without telling me, forged my signature on the documents. When I confronted him with the evidence, he didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. I was planning for my future. He said coldly, "Our future." You just don't understand business, Emma. Sometimes you have to make moves your partner won't understand. I'm not your partner, I said quietly. I'm your wife, or I was. That's when I learned the full truth. Richard Morrison, the CEO who'd corrected Daniel at the party, called me, asked if we could meet for coffee. I almost didn't go, but something in his tone made me curious. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, and Richard looked uncomfortable, apologetic. Emma, I need to tell you something, and it's not easy. When I mentioned your work on the Stream Sync protocol at the party, I didn't do it to embarrass Daniel. I did it because I'd been meaning to have a conversation with him about intellectual property attribution. You see, when he first pitched that project to us, he presented it as entirely his own work. It wasn't until our legal team was filing patents that one of the engineers mentioned he'd seen you presenting similar concepts at a conference 2 years prior. My hands were shaking around my coffee cup. What are you saying? I'm saying your husband built his career at my company on work that wasn't entirely his own. And when I started looking into it more deeply after the party, I found other instances. That's the second time I've had to correct him. Actually, last year, in a board meeting, he tried to claim credit for a risk assessment model that I know for a fact came from your consulting work. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know the truth, and because ... double quotes, he hesitated. I'm going to have to let him go, Emma. I can't have someone on my executive team who takes credit for others' work, who falsifies contributions. I wanted you to hear it from me first, in case he tries to spin it some other way. Daniel was fired 2 weeks later. When he came home that day, rage rolling off him in waves, he blamed me. Screamed that I'd poisoned Richard against him, that I'd ruined his career out of jealousy. I let him yell. I let him say every terrible thing he needed to say, and when he was finally quiet, exhausted from his own anger, I handed him divorce papers. The look on his face was almost satisfying. Almost. You're really going to throw away 12 years over this? No, I said softly. You threw away 12 years. You threw them away every time you took credit for my work, every time you made me feel small so you could feel big. Every time you stole from our future to build your own secret safety net. I'm just finally seeing it clearly. The divorce took 8 months. It was ugly. He fought me on everything, the house, the savings, the investments. But I had Patricia, and I had the truth, and I had financial records that showed a pattern of deception. In the end, the judge saw through him just like I finally had. I got the house. I got half of everything, including the secret account. I got my life back. But the real transformation happened inside me. I started therapy. Started unpacking 12 years of subtle manipulation, of having my confidence. Eroded one tiny comment at a time. Started remembering who I was before I became Daniel's wife. That systems analyst who spoke at conferences. That woman who created innovative solutions. That person who had her own dreams. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from Richard Morrison. He wanted to offer me a position at Randstone Industries, not as someone's wife, not as a background consultant. As the Director of Innovation Systems, leading my own team, getting credit for my own work, I said yes. On my first day, walking into that building not as Daniel's plus one but as myself, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt proud. I felt whole. I felt free. I've been in this position for almost a year now. I've launched 3 major projects, all under my own name. I've spoken at international conferences. I've mentored young women who remind me of who I used to be, brilliant and capable, but somehow convinced they need to dim their light for someone else's comfort. And Daniel, I heard he found another job, though not at the executive level he'd reached through borrowed brilliance. I heard he got remarried quickly to someone younger, someone who looked at him with the same adoring eyes I once had. Part of me feels sorry for her. Part of me hopes she's smarter than I was. Part of me knows it's not my story to tell anymore. Sometimes, people ask me if I regret those 12 years. If I wish I'd seen the truth sooner. And honestly, I don't know. Because those years made me who I am now. They taught me what I won't tolerate. They taught me my own worth. They taught me that love should never require you to make yourself smaller. That night at the promotion party, when Daniel said, "You owe me everything," he was wrong. So wrong, I don't owe him anything. Not gratitude, not credit, not one more minute of my brilliance attributed to his name. And when Richard Morrison corrected him twice, he wasn't just correcting the record. He was giving me a gift, the gift of seeing clearly. The gift of knowing my worth, the gift of recognizing that I had never been the supporting character in Daniel's story. I had always been the author of my own. These days, when I catch my reflection in the mirror in my office, in my new apartment, in the quiet morning light, I see someone I recognize. Someone I'm proud of, someone who finally understands that she never owed anyone anything. She earned it, she built it, she deserves it. And if there's one thing I want anyone listening to this story to understand, it's this ... Your contributions matter. Your work matters. Your name matters. Don't ever let anyone convince you that their success is yours to borrow, that their dreams are more important than your own, that you should be grateful for a life you helped build. You don't owe them everything. You owe yourself the truth. And that truth is worth fighting for, even when it costs you everything you thought you wanted. Because what I learned that night, standing in that glittering ballroom, watching my husband claim credit for a life we built together, was that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself. And that's not a tragedy. That's not an ending. That's the beginning of the life you were always meant to live. The one where you're the hero of your own story. The one where your name is on your work, your worth is undeniable, and no one can take that away from you. That's the life I'm living now, and it's more beautiful than any fairy tale I ever believed in. It's strange how silence feels different when you finally make peace with it. There was a time when the quiet of my apartment felt like an accusation, proof that I had failed, that I was alone. But now it feels like freedom. The kind of quiet that hums with possibility. One evening, almost a year after my divorce, I was preparing for a keynote presentation in London. I stood by the window of my hotel room, watching the city lights shimmer across the Thames, when my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. For a second, I almost ignored it. But something curiosity, maybe closure, made me pick up. "Emma," the voice said, hesitant. "It's Daniel." For a moment, I couldn't speak. I hadn't heard his voice since our final day in court. He sounded smaller, somehow, like the arrogance that once filled every word had been stripped away. "I know I don't deserve your time," he continued. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. For taking what wasn't mine. For not seeing you for who you really were until it was too late." I closed my eyes, breathing in slowly. There was a time I dreamed of hearing those words. Now, they didn't land the way I expected. They didn't sting, they didn't soothe, they just existed. I appreciate that, Daniel, I said quietly. But you don't owe me an apology anymore. I forgave you a long time ago. Not for you, for me. He exhaled, a shaky sound. On the other end, you're doing really well, huh? I am, I said simply. Better than ever. There was silence. Then, softly, you always were the better half. This time, I smiled not bitterly, not triumphantly, just peacefully. No, Daniel, I was always whole. I just didn't know it yet. We said goodbye, and I hung up. I stood there for a long time, watching the lights of the city, feeling an unfamiliar lightness in my chest. Closure didn't come with fireworks or revenge, it came with quiet understanding. The next morning, I stepped onto the stage in front of hundreds of women in tech, all of them hungry for inspiration, for proof that resilience could lead to rebirth. I looked out at them and saw versions of myself, some afraid, some fierce, all trying to reclaim their light. My story, I began, isn't about loss, it's about rediscovery. Sometimes the walls you build with someone else have to fall so you can finally see the horizon beyond them. They listened, and I spoke from the place that used to hurt the most, the place that now held my strength. After the applause faded, a young woman approached me with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "You made me realize I'm not crazy for wanting to start over." I smiled and touched her hand. "Starting over isn't the end," I said. "It's just the part where you start telling your story in your own voice." That night, as I walked through the city streets, the air was cool, the sky clear. For the first time, I didn't think about what I'd lost. I thought about what I'd found: clarity, purpose, and the quiet power of knowing that my story, from beginning to end, was always mine to write. And this time, I'm writing it with my name on every page.